When it comes to using pronoun screens, there are two types of screens that I want to focus on. The first one is pronoun-noun agreement. So this means, again, just like a subject-verb agreement or noun-verb agreement, we're talking about singular versus plural. So singular plural needs to line up correctly between the noun and the pronoun that is referring to that noun. Looking at this first example up here, and hit pause if you want to give it an attempt real quick. The scientist has long been in search of a universal theory to resolve the apparent discrepancies between conventional models and studies conducted to evaluate it. What is this "it" referring to? Well, we're talking about discrepancies between conventional models and studies conducted to evaluate them. Because we're talking about the models here. We're not talking about the universal theory, which is singular, because he's been in search of a universal theory. There's no studies conducted to evaluate the universal theory if he's still searching for it. This must be talking about them, the conventional models, and logically, if we look at the way it's set up in the back end, I think that as I read it, I read it in my head as we are talking about these models plural. But it's really easy to get thrown off with a singular pronoun when you've referred to the theory or the scientist, which were both singular. So this is something that you need to be careful about. A lot of times the GMAT would prefer if I restated, instead of using a pronoun, if I completely restated to evaluate the models. So while this introduces more language, it adds clarity. And the GMAT values clarity over conciseness. So while these are both good screens, clarity and conciseness, and we'll talk about them when we get to the tiebreakers, clarity trumps conciseness. Now, ambiguous pronouns, and if you want to hit pause and give this a read real quick, go for it. The boy and his friend were having a good time until he fell into the pond. Well, the word he could refer to his friend or the boy. So I'm not sure who fell into the pond, and that's an ambiguous pronoun. Be on the lookout for pronouns. Generally speaking, they're one of the things that the test maker loves to sprinkle in because they're good screens, they're fair, and they're black and white. There's no in-between gray area as to whether or not this could be used. It can't be used if it's making the sentence unclear. So again, we'd rather repeat the boy than have an ambiguous pronoun that we're not positive about here.